After studying Mars's atmosphere with its first space probe, the United Arab Emirates now plans to send a second probe to study one hot planet and 7 asteroids before landing on an asteroid. Here are the details. CNBC reports that the United Arab Emirates has announced it will send another probe into space, this time to study Venus and the solar system's main asteroid belt. The announcement comes as the Emirates Hope Probe is studying Mars's atmosphere from orbit after arriving in Mars orbit in February 2021. According to the UAE, the new probe will launch in 2028 and head to Venus, where it will use a heat shield to orbit close to the hot planet and study it. After studying Venus, the probe will return to Earth, circling the mother planet a few times to pick up enough speed to slingshot out to the solar system's main asteroid belt, situated between Mars and Jupiter. When it reaches the asteroid belt, it will closely observe 7 asteroids before landing on one of them and collecting a sample before it returns to Earth. If it can do all that, the UAE would become only the 4th nation to land a spacecraft on an asteroid. If all goes to plan, the probe will travel a total of 2.2 billion miles, or 3.6 billion kilometers. As with the UAE's Martian probe, the Emirates will again work closely with the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics at the University of Colorado to build and control the new probe. The Hope Mars mission, also known as Emirates Mars mission, will be the first mission to Mars by any Arab nation if it successfully launches in 2020. According to Khaleej Times, the Hope probe will be hexagonal in shape and structure with a mass of about 1,500 kilograms and 2.37 meters in width and 2.9 meters in height. The spacecraft will also use 3 600-watt solar panels to charge its batteries, which will unfold once the probe is in orbit. It will also communicate with Earth via a high-gain antenna. Hope will be launched from Japan using Mitsubishi's H-2A launcher and will take approximately 200 days to travel to Mars at speeds of up to 40,000 kilometers per hour. The spacecraft will carry a digital camera, an infrared spectrometer, and an ultraviolet spectrometer to gather climate and atmospheric data of Mars and send the images back to Earth. If everything goes according to plan, the probe will arrive on Mars in 2021 and is expected to study the atmosphere of Mars for about 2 years. A Japanese startup is speeding up moon exploration by getting investors to buy into 3 lunar missions that are on schedule to start launching next year already. Next year's moon mission will deliver Dubai's first lunar lander and a Japanese moon robot to the surface of the moon. Here are the details. TechCrunch reports that a Japanese technology startup has raised millions to build a moon lander that will deliver the United Arab Emirates' first rover to the moon next year. To date, the relatively small Japanese company, called iSpace, has raised $195.5 million through crowdfunding, plus a $500,000 payment from Google's Lunar X Prize contest in 2018 for designing a prototype Hakuto lunar rover. The updated Hakuto R lunar flight model has reached its final stages of assembly and is on schedule for a launch in the 4th quarter of 2022. It will be carried to space on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched from the Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral in Florida. Apart from the UAE's moon rover, the lander will also deliver a Japanese lunar robot and 3 static onboard experiments from Canada. In 2023, a second Hakuto R lander will deliver an iSpace rover intended to collect data to support subsequent missions. 2024 will see iSpace send a larger lunar lander that is currently being developed in the U.S. iSpace's ambitions lie in commercial landers aimed at carrying rovers and science experiments to the lunar surface. It is also looking to monetize data it gathers from the moon, which it hopes to sell on to other companies, such as space agencies and research organizations, to aid preparations for their own missions to Earth's nearest neighbor. The United Arab Emirates has been trying hard to curb the dwindling of its precious underground water table. To this end, it invested $15 million in 9 different rain-making projects in 2017. This investment seemed to pay off this past week when the desert country was blessed with very rare torrential rain. Here are the details. The Independent reports that the United Arab Emirates has been abuzz with excitement over the very unusual torrential rain that fell in the desert country for a few days around Monday, July 19th. On Twitter, the UAE's Weather Bureau hinted that much of this unseasonal downpour is due to its multi-million-dollar cloud seeding efforts. One of the ways in which the UAE seeds clouds is by using electricity-inducing drones. The drones were developed by the UAE and researchers from the University of Reading in England. They get catapulted into the air and cruise through the sky, gathering weather data and giving a nudge to clouds in the form of an electrical charge. The idea is that the electrical charge helps clump water droplets and other particles together to make new and bigger clouds that actually have a chance to generate much-needed precipitation. This is important since the UAE typically receives only 4 inches or 10 centimeters of rain per year. The idea is to make the droplets inside the clouds big enough so that when they fall out of the cloud, they survive down to the surface. Some scientists think cloud seeding doesn't really work, while others think it works too well. They point at instances like China's heavy reliance on a weather-altering system. Experts have argued that this system could be weaponized to steal rain from neighboring countries like India. If it turns out that cloud seeding can indeed be used to steal rain from neighboring countries, we might even see wars for rain in the future. The United Arab Emirates is preparing to go to Mars. The UAE is planning to build a $136 million city here on Earth called Mars Science City, which consists of interconnected dome structures that will span 1.9 million square feet. According to Popular Science, the city will be used by engineers to prototype future Mars building materials and construction techniques. It will also house labs that can simulate various parts of Mars's environment. Researchers will practice several methods of farming on light resources as Mars lacks water and nutritious soil. Waste and water recycling methods will also be tested. With Mars radiation being stronger than on Earth, the domes will be used to test material that can block solar radiation. The dome city will also be able to filter in more or less sunlight, possibly to better mirror Mars time. The UAE plans to have a team of people to live in the city for a year to develop strategies for surviving long-term on the red planet. Besides laboratories, the proposed city will also contain a museum dedicated to space achievements.
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.